Hey, IT Nation, Sean Lardo here with another segment installment, episode, and whatever other word you can use for this of the Wise Up podcast. I'm on with my co-host, good friend, and perennial cybersecurity person, Matt Topper. Person. Hey,
How's
Matt.
it going, Sean? Cybersecurity person. That's my new title.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I thought it was good. Well, I wanted to be, I didn't want to put you in a box.
Well, I'm definitely not in the box with that title. I could be anything.
Right. That's what I figured. You're welcome.
Appreciate you as always, buddy.
You know, I feel appreciated. So, with that said, for those that have never seen the Wise Up podcast, please give them some insight as to what this is all about.
Yeah, so the Wise Up podcast is an opportunity to hear from people you don't always hear from, get some information, get some utility value out of them. And a lot of the people we interview on this podcast are behind the scenes, right? They're not the headline speakers all the time, not necessarily the people working the booth at the conference. You might not even know they're there because they're just doing their thing. And it's a way for you to meet them, learn something about them, and get some valuable information for your business. Although today's person is not necessarily a behind the scenes person.
I was going to say, you know, with this being one of the, which is great for me and makes me happy. This episode is one of the PitchIT contestants from this year. He's not behind the scenes so much anymore. When I met him before, originally he was behind the scenes more so. Now, a couple years later, he's become sort of a force to be reckoned with. Everybody knows him at this point for the most part. So he really has come out of his shell, and he's become like a leader within the space, which is really good to see. Makes that's like a proud dad moment almost. Even though he's a full-grown man. But let's get him on. Without further ado, why don't we bring on co-founder of ThreatCaptain, good friend of ours now, been for some years, Brad Powell.
Hey, Brad.
Thank you, guys. What an honor to be on the Wise Up podcast with two of my great friends. One that I actually run with, the other one still, he's just a great moral supporter at this point, but he's out there. So, Matt, we have to give him a little bit of credit sometimes. When we do these runs, Sean actually does show up.
I do.
I'm going on a run right after this episode ends.
Nice.
I'm not.
No, we know you're not.
I believe in consistency, Brad. All right. So for those that don't know you, Brad, why don't you give us a little background on you and also ThreatCaptain, please?
Yeah. So I think it's fun to kind of start where I actually met my co-founder, Adam Anderson. We actually met during my MBA at Clemson, and he was the entrepreneur in residence. And the first thing that I did with Adam was a research project on the grid, on the smart grid, and how cyber could ultimately play a big part in the grid. Did an MBA level research project for him. And really from there, we became really good friends. We stayed in touch. Long story short, we started Hook Security together back in 2018. And man, what we learned from that was it's really hard to sell cybersecurity. And it's actually really hard to sell one security control, just going out and selling one security control like we were with training. And we're just talking about training, right? And so what Adam and I were able to do is we were able to grow with an amazing CEO and other co-founder, Zach, and build a great team around us. And we were able to look at the market and say, man, we really want to help leadership think about cybersecurity in a new way and how it really relates to the business risk and talk in their terms. From there, we started doing tabletops and started using quantification with some technology that we were working with that ultimately we built into ThreatCaptain today, where we're helping show the actual business risk to have the right sales conversations around discovery, renewals, etc. So that's a little bit about, so that's kind of my journey really in a nutshell. ThreatCaptain is a sales enablement platform for MSPs, helping you actually sell more cybersecurity. There's a lot that goes into what we do with our platform, but at the core crust of what we are a sales enablement platform for MSPs.
So I'll jump in real quick here, and then because I know Matt has questions too, but I feel like nobody should really be selling cybersecurity. They should be selling peace of mind security, right? I think that's the hard part, because that gets you into that whole technology sales piece to end users that have no idea what you're talking about. When you, especially some of the names that you would use in cybersecurity are names that are not known publicly. A lot of times you're not using Microsoft typically with cybersecurity. I mean, they try to, but you're not using Microsoft as one of your components. So is it really about selling security, or is it by helping them to sell a service of protection?
So the way the platform is set up is really to help answer 3 questions. How bad could it potentially be? What's the potential impact my business could have? What does cyber insurance ultimately, what do they think about me? So helping kind of answer that question. And then what is the likelihood of a incident happening to me based off my security environment, based off the controls, CIS, MITRE attack tactics and frameworks. So there's a lot that goes into how we're thinking about it, but ultimately that's where we're guiding MSPs and MSP sales teams, and specifically in the discovery or even like renewal conversation. That's really what they want to know, and they want to understand, what does it mean to me? And so really helping put a mirror on the client in a way that they can see themselves in the data. And I think that's important when you're in the sales process and you're working with building trust, as well as being a representative of cybersecurity and your MSP. We're really working hard to make that a financial conversation that you can have with your clients.
Fair.
So why this area specifically? We've talked about this a little bit. I love the idea of assigning some kind of quantifiable empirical data to this to visualize over time and get an idea of where you are. But when you were looking to start another company or start a new thing, what drove you to this specifically?
Man, great question, Matt. And really it stemmed from rolling up my sleeves with MSPs and actually selling beside them in the trenches and seeing how difficult it was to go from IT manager to then the CFO that would kill it because, well, I don't see the value. I don't see, why would we do this, right? Ultimately, you see more and more regulations come in that help that conversation out, because you got to start checking some boxes for insurance, et cetera. But ultimately it was having to go back and tell the same story of, well, 92% of all breaches start with a phishing attack. And yes, that is a meaningful stat, but you'd go back with the same thing. It's $4.2 million average breach cost. And it's like, well, hey, I'm just a small construction company, in Greenville, South Carolina. And what does Krispy Kreme's breach or this other big enterprise breach matter to me? And so, for us, it was, how do we really build something valuable for the community that can help quantify, but also show the value and business justification of all security controls, not just one, but like the whole freaking story and the whole conversation that you should be having. And so that's really what spawned ThreatCaptain, was from learning what we learned at Hook, what I learned in the physical security days of working as an integrator and working with other vendors that would come in and how we work with them. So it was a accumulation of a lot that's happened, I think, personally on my side, to kind of help build ThreatCaptain to where it is today alongside of Adam. But yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, right? Those stats that you hear about phishing and the breach sizes and all that, they're meaningful. They're not actionable by themselves for you as a smaller or anyone, right? Someone that's not a giant enterprise company. So ThreatCaptain or other tools can just help you turn that into something you can actually do something with.
I'm curious what other stats you have.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, what other stats do you have? That's what I want to know. That was a good
What
stat.
other stats?
So what else should
Yeah,
somebody
that's a
know
good stat.
about? Yeah, it is. That's a very good stat, because people don't think, again, we've heard the line forever, we're not big enough for people to come after, right? That's what you always hear that, right? That becomes what every MSP says. That's what every client says too, right? Of the MSPs. And that's obviously inaccurate. So what other statistics should somebody be aware of when it comes down to this stuff that you have? And if you don't have any right now, that's fine. Just say you don't have any. We'll just edit that part out of the video. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now that like 83% of cybersecurity budget are cut at the CFO's desk because they can't justify the price, or they're not budgeting it in. So we do see a lot of that. I mean, that was one of the reasons, right, that we looked at it. It was like, holy cow, like cybersecurity gets denied a lot. And how can we help MSPs sell 10%, 15% more a year by having better discovery and a better cybersecurity conversation, sales conversation around the true business risk, right? And what they really want to hear and talk about.
Okay, so I want to just dig into that a second. If 83% is being cut of cybersecurity from the CFO because they just don't know, how is an MSP supposed to make that awareness happen? You already talked about that your technology, what you guys do kind of helps with this too, but they still have to be able to get in front of the person regardless, because I would imagine most people they're talking to, the MSSPs or MSPs, whatever they call themselves, who they're talking to is probably the security or technology person in that business to some degree, or they're talking to the owner if it's a small business. So how do they make sure they're in front of the CFO?
Yeah. So what, without, trying to give you some information from my head, but also talk a little bit about how we do it in ThreatCaptain, at the core, that's what we're helping build. Well, what we've built for sales teams is the ability to navigate through that conversation in a way that's meaningful, right? And so, yeah, I would say as we've looked through not only the impact and insurance and that conversation that we built in, but it's also the enablement side. So we have a tool that we use, an anchor point of our platform that allows a BDR, an AE, a vCISO to go through and say, hey, I'm talking to this specific, I'm hunting, and I'm talking to this specific decision maker, IT manager. They have an MSP and they can go through this whole scenario, and we help them script out emails, call logs, next conversations to really kind of help MSPs that might not have a sales process or that are looking to level up a process within their organization. Really helps them navigate that. And, one of the things that we hear a lot is, hey, we have 4 to 6 salespeople on our team and turnover is crazy. We're constantly hiring new BDRs. We're constantly, having churn of 6 to 9 months of another AE coming through. And so we are looking to address that pain as well for an MSP, to kind of have a way for a tool, a platform, a sales enablement platform that as an MSP, you budget it in your sales and marketing budget, not necessarily your cyber tooling budget. And it is used for your sales team internally as you onboard new ones, as you offboard, so that if someone offboards, you have all that information from that client, from those prospects. So we're really working hard to make sure that sales piece is driven into the platform as well. So kind of went long there. Thank you for letting me do that. But we are working to build that into the sales enablement platform, the piece of that for our MSPs and their teams.
So you've been through, just working with customers and MSPs, a lot of assessments, looked at a lot of environments going through this.
Mm-hmm.
What are some takeaways from like the aggregate of all of this? Actually, how about this? What's something that surprised you when you started seeing the results or what people were putting in? Anything stick out?
Honestly, the results being, if I look at results, it's how are our MSPs winning? And and the thing that's been a really big surprise to us is how different ways they are winning. For instance, we have one MSP that was able to pull up ThreatCaptain, have a conversation around, hey, how much cyber insurance do you guys have? Client told him we have $5 million in cyber insurance. And he said, okay, great. Well, let's pull up ThreatCaptain and just look at kind of what the calculations and the comparables say based off your industry, et cetera, environment, and was able to show it was more around 14 million if they were impacted with a ransomware attack. And so that was able to open up the door for him to have conversations around professional services, policies, procedures, and some MRR around that too. So he was able to get an $80,000 deal out of that. So we looked at that as like, holy cow, that's a huge win, right? That was actually a huge surprise on how they used it. And then we have other MSP that uses it from an inbound lead that comes in, and the inbound lead wants to do a pen test from this MSP, and through really slick discovery and it was a seasoned AE, very seasoned guy, was able to add on a business risk assessment through ThreatCaptain for an additional $5K to that pen test. So it was like, man, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at as, whoa, I'm surprised because there's two different use cases with one tool and one platform.
Yep. I appreciate that too. I think the thing is, you're not taking that AE you just mentioned, seasoned. How do you take what that person did and repeat that and deliver that to younger, more inexperienced people to know to get, because this should be part of just best practice, I feel like. Because again, with security, you're unraveling a lot of things. And what if the MSP doesn't actually really support some of those things too?
That's great, right? And having the ability to go to the next. You're right. Yeah. So I think for us, well, man, I'll tell you one is just building Raven fans and actual really true partnerships, right? That you can have conversations and great feedback from guys that are like, hey, this is how you should do it. I love how we did this. This is how we got results. Having like those guys in your boat, like no pun intended with the captain, but like we have been very fortunate to have really great MSPs that have helped us along the way. And in a lot of ways, we've been very unapologetic about building in front of the community. And we felt that as very core to what we wanted to do, to ensure that we weren't just building something just to build something. We're building something that's actually valuable, and something that having the MSP community behind us has been really cool through all this.
So you talked about the use case for an evaluation as a pre-sales tool. Do you also use this for existing clients to evaluate where they're at over time? Just want to make sure that there's a use case there, right?
Yeah, so there's absolutely a use case in, if you do QBRs, if you're looking to, really it runs alongside a lot of what MSPs are already doing in a QBR phase, but this enriches that conversation, right? We're seeing MSPs similar to that conversation about, how much cyber insurance do you have? You could also bring this up in a QBR and literally use our platform in a way that you guide them through a conversation, where the outcome is a business risk assessment, and you can run them through that. We do have MSPs that are doing that. We also, Matt, we have MSPs that use this in tabletops, and they're, adding another bit of value and dollar to, hey, we're going to bring in and do some financial impact analysis. We're going to bring in some ROI and some quantification around the security and security controls. So there's a lot of neat other use cases that we definitely are highlighting. As we're growing the platform too, you'll see more trending data. So we'll have more individual trending data on the specific clients that can be served to them or dripped to them in ways that, is valuable and brings awareness of the MSP and kind of some things that they're doing, and then based off our calculations. So, there's a lot, we're constantly trying to get too much scope creep, but we're always looking to how do we continue to improve?
Sure. And something that kind of crossed my mind is, as you were talking, you said sales enablement, but it's also client retention.
Yes,
because
it is.
You're constantly educating, right? And showing.
Well, and everything changes. All the data reports that we're getting, they come out in 2020, the year 2024. Now we have 2025 that just came out. So we're constantly updating all of our trusted data sources to ensure like everything's up to date there. Man, there's new breaches that come out. So there's different simulations. Hey, like right now, business email compromise is actually a big thing right now. And so it's like, let's simulate that, right? Let's simulate what's happening right now. So yeah, there's a lot of unique ways, and honestly, a lot of unique ways that we're learning that MSPs are helping us. Like, hey, look how I'm doing this with your downtown calculator now. It's like, oh, okay, wow.
Mm-hmm.
But we're constantly evolving.
Fair.
I think what you just described with calling it the downtown calculator is something to highlight, because we've all seen those, don't know what the right word is, but those kind of marketing exercises that have like two variables and say you're going to save $500,000 in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And by the amount of data that you guys collect just from having, you showed it to me at one point.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't that. This is like real data, and it becomes a neutral third party in a discussion, right? It's not you as the MSP trying to like sell with all the stuff. It's like, you do this, this is how it changes. It becomes very easy and matter of fact, as opposed to a, we're going to promise you the world, or everything's going to blow up if you don't do this kind of sales tactics.
Yes, just like community being a huge thing for us, it was like, if we're going to get community behind it, we have to build with trusted data sources. And, that has been at the core for us, right? Like, one thing that we're excited about is we just rolled in CIS controls and really begin to map that in. So that was a huge win for our team internally to get that rolled out. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It has to be data that's trusted. It's like if you're in banking, you follow the FDIC. I don't necessarily know what all that means, but I know when I walk into a bank, I see it on the door, and I know that that's something that they follow in the financial industry, right? And that there's certain acronyms that they follow. So I think it becomes pretty simple. Hey, we're in cybersecurity. This is MITRE ATT&CK, and this is what it means, is how the bad guys get in, what they do when they're in, et cetera, and really try to make that an easy conversation and something that they can understand in a very easy way. Because let's be honest, man, employees of the everyday are not just driving into work thinking about cybersecurity like we do. And
no,
yeah,
so?
No,
it doesn't happen. Yeah. So for me, it's how do we make something really simple, really hard, very simple and easy to talk about. And that's really part of our drive of the sales enablement piece at ThreatCaptain, is to really make that easy in a cool platform.
But that's okay. So, and from what I can see, it's left of boom is where you sit.
Yep.
And not that people are thinking about cybersecurity, but they are thinking about what they need to maintain their business to have production each day. Right. So is it more about teaching people to have a conversation of, like you said, here's what happens if you get breached, you get shut down for a day or two. How much is this worth to you? It is all a preparation game at that point, right?
Yeah, I think for the way that we're coaching our partners and MSPs, and the way that we think about it, is really inserting that business risk assessment before the pen test, before the cyber risk assessment, to have that conversation around the business. So then as an MSP, like in discovery or in your renewal conversation, you really understand where they are as a business and help navigate that conversation. And then it's like, oh, well, you know what? Now that we've done this, we really need to do a pen test, and this is what we need to do, and blah, blah, blah. And here's how we're going to kind of roadmap down the road. And really, that's where that's where ThreatCaptain lives in the MSP world, right? We really live in that sales discovery, sales renewal, having a better conversation, sitting at your tabletop, sitting alongside you at your QBR, to have those real business impact conversations around risk.
All right, well, Brad, we're almost out of time, and I want to wrap with the question we ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, if you could give some advice to our audience in the form of a habit, something they should start doing, what would you tell them to start having these kind of conversations? Like, how can they get going? What should they start doing?
So any kind of habit. One thing that's been helpful for me in a busy life is meal prepping, honestly. I'm not going to lie. It's something that I found that, and I haven't been doing it that long, honestly. I've probably been doing it for like 6 months, but it actually has been a really cool thing. So I do a lot of crock pot. So I'd say maybe look at the crock pot.
I
like that one.
I actually really, you're the first person to say it.
That's awesome.
I agree, but that's back to preparation, right?
Yeah. So, it's time is of the essence, right? And if you can, knock it out and have something planned every day, it just helps you stay a little bit more disciplined. It's one last thing that you got to think about. Meal prep with a crock pot.
I like it.
Give it a try.
That's a way better answer than anything I expected was coming. I like it.
Right.
Good.
It wasn't cliche at all. And it's valuable too, because again, if you don't have time, because you have kids and you run a business and it's busy, and that's the reality of our lives.
That's right.
I like that. It's all about you. It's enablement. You're enabling yourself to do other stuff by doing these things. I'm in. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that is all we have for this episode. Thanks, Brad. You are the man as always. Matt, anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, just from a security practitioner perspective, I appreciate your opinions on this, Brad. It's so difficult sometimes to have these conversations with executives and owners at clients, and to be able to help quantify some of that, just huge value there.
Agreed.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It was so much fun to jam out with y'all as always.
It is good. Thank you for everything, man. All right. So until the next time, everybody, we will see you later. Matt, I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.